Welcome to A Corporate Time with Tom and Dan. I'm Tom.
I am Dan. We are live on Twitch and also YouTube. Head over to YouTube and watch us at Tom and Dan Live. We would love to have you subscribe. And SJ even, he's like speaking out of turn. Our buddy Eric came by this morning and he was like, hey, why don't you say if you guys get to 10,000 subscribers, you'll throw a party at Hollowbox. So I'll just lie and say that.
Yeah, well, I mean, how many do we have now?
We need 3,000 more.
Well, hold on. That's a lot of work.
It's a lot of work.
For 3,000 clicks.
Yeah, you with 3,000 clicks, and we'll throw them a party.
No, well, they're getting more than that. We got to get another, you got to get to 20,000.
20,000, okay,
we'll
20,000 we'll throw a party. There we go.
Yeah,
20,000 we'll throw a party. That works.
Actually, 3,000. We'll never get there.
I know, that's what I was thinking. I thought it was an impossible task. I really thought it was an impossible task.
Yeah, you know what? We'll throw a party for 10,000.
All right, 10,000. There you go.
Anyway, before we start, I want to remind everybody the Orlando Museum of Art has an exhibit right now. It's a Grant Brittain exhibit. It's skateboard photography. They're doing he's doing a conversation with Tony Hawk. He's buddies with Tony Hawk. He's bringing Tony Hawk in, and it's going to be at their little theater that they have inside the actual Museum of Art.
It's a super intimate, super pro little theater right there inside the museum. You get to be like 50 feet from Tony Hawk. Grant Brittain will be on the stage. They'll be kind of walking through the most famous skateboarding photographs of all time.
And just telling stories about early skateboarding days and like how it transitioned and everything. And then there's a Q&A. And if you use promo code Tom and Dan, you can get tickets to the Museum of Art to go and see all the exhibits. They got a really cool punk rock exhibit going on right now, and then the Push exhibit, and there's the Golden Books. That it was super cool.
The little Golden Books.
Yeah, right after the punk rock exhibit, I'm like, it's a Golden Books exhibit that I've been reading to my kids for years.
It'll cleanse your palate after you see some hardcore British punk rock.
And again, use promo code Tom and Dan, and that is November 7th, the Tony Hawk Grant Brittain conversation.
But I would jump on the tickets. They're reasonably priced.
Yeah, and they probably will sell out of the meet and greet's already sold out. So this is the only tickets available, and they're limited.
And I'll just say this: I know I'm literally I'm putting words in my own mouth here, right? But Tony Hawk has been saying on many different podcasts, and I listen to a lot of them, that he is pulling back. This guy is done it for his entire life. It's not like he's going to go, you know what, I'm going to go gas down harder. I think he's pulling back. So if you really want to see him, this is your chance to see it at probably the best venue you could ever experience it. Because it's small.
Yeah, it's right here.
It's very
close
intimate.
as hell.
So there you go. Give it a shot.
Let's do some Weird Job.
Weird Job on deck now. Tom wanted to do a bit. He called it Weird Job Wednesday. Dan really likes it. Tom says that's bullshit. It's another Weird Job Wednesday. What are you doing? What is your job? Are you neat? Are you tidy? Or are you a fat slob? Do you make lots of money and you sit up in your tower looking down on all the people who are working by the hour? It's a Weird Job Wednesday. Just another Weird Job Wednesday. Oh yes, it's Weird Job Wednesday. Just another Weird Job Wednesday. Thank you, Tom. Thank you.
Weird Job Wednesday brought to you by Bucket Brigade Junk Removal. That's bucketbrigadejunk.com. If you got junk in the Claremont area or West Orlando, give them a call and get it removed by the best-looking first responders I've ever seen.
Yeah, are we allowed to say that? Like, I feel like, they really are. They really are.
Insanely good-looking.
6'10"
firefighters
and carrying a fireman's axe. Big axe.
So this Weird Job Wednesday is a little unique because we're checking back in.
Yes, we are.
To a weird job we did a while ago.
Yes.
And
this is called Are You Still Struggling?
Yeah. Ryan Reese is here. How you doing, Ryan?
Hey, how's it going, guys?
Good to see you, man. How you been?
I've been good. Thanks for having me back.
And
always.
Ryan Reese is an author, and we talked about his other book the last time, and he has a new book out So we're kind of checking in how being an author is working out for Ryan.
Yeah. Do you get, like, I guess let's start back where we last left off. The last, and correct me if I'm wrong, the last novel that you wrote was about what do you like?
Water restoration, mystery, murder mystery.
Exactly.
Correct, yeah.
And that one, do you, like, how do you decide once you've put that one out there, and how long has it been since we had you in? Do you know?
Maybe a year, because it's been about almost exactly a year since the last one came out.
All right.
Okay.
Almost, yeah.
All right.
So this new book is a thriller, and but just by looking at the front of it, it's it looks like a horror.
It's more horror
story.
suspense.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. What's this one called?
So this one's called Full Gut, which is a reference to a term in the restoration or construction world where a full gut is, let's say your studio had water in it and you didn't have the AC on for a whole year and it's just covered with mold. There's nothing you can do about it. It's beyond salvageable. So we got to gut it down to the skeletal framework and come back in and redo everything. So that's a full gut. So the minute I heard that, I was like, oh man, that would make a great title.
Yeah,
so,
you also stole the name of EJ's biography that he was going to write. And so now he's going to change it to
Big Fat Slob.
Yeah, 2 airplane seats. I don't know what you're going to call it.
Yeah.
So it seems like you like writing thrillers or horror books, correct?
Well, yeah, because people read them.
Yeah. Like, is it one of the more popular genres of, like, what are the most popular ones?
Like, like commercial thriller novels. I mean, they're exciting. It's how you make something, not so exciting. Like, I'm not into the law, but I love legal thrillers.
Yeah.
And so, and I've learned a lot about the law through them. Or, through science with techno thrillers, like Michael Crichton novels, and, anything else kind of like that. Romance is also very popular, so I have not entertained that yet.
I think I could write that really gooey romance.
Don't call it gooey.
Yeah.
But you know the ones I'm talking about, because the ladies like them. I'm being serious.
Like the 50 Shades of Grey.
I think they make you uncomfortable, but I have a very good friend that will remain nameless, Summer, who loves these spicy novels.
No.
And I think I could write them.
I have
throbbing, moist.
My friends' wives tell me about
heaving bosoms.
They read these, and I'm like, words make you horny?
Yeah.
I'm like, no word
Did you know
has
that?
ever
Write
made
that
me
down.
horny.
Write that down. He can't write, but write that down. Women like words.
I've never read anything that
You never did that Penthouse Forum?
No.
So you're
Only pictures. And then
as a true artist, I can read some words and get one going. Like,
Yeah.
I can read a Penthouse. There was a Penthouse Forum about a DJ, like a DJ at like a bar, and the girls kept coming up into the DJ booth, and I was like, that's what I'm gonna be when I grow up, a strip club DJ.
Well, it's funny, when I worked at Books A Million when 50 Shades of Grey came out, and I was the guy who would go in the back and help unload the trucks, saran-wrapped crates of that book, and we'd sell all of them in maybe 2 or 3 days, and here comes the truck again, another one, and I sold them to everybody, from children to elderly people.
Children?
Yeah.
You gotta do what you gotta do with your book, man.
That was the one book we had to ID for.
I'm your mama, I'm your daddy, I'm that N-word on the alley.
We had to ID for the
pusher
book,
man.
and I felt terrible being like, it's kind of a weird feeling to ID for a book. I've worked in a convenience store before, like cigarettes and beer, I get it, but for a novel, but like sometimes.
Heaving bosoms, that's heaving bosoms.
How old did you have to be?
18.
Oh, you had to be 18?
Yeah.
Hold on, NC-17.
It's considered erotica.
Yeah, but NC-17 is like, there was a Showgirls, right?
Yeah,
good. That pool scene? Holy smokes, the pool scene. The pool scene with the nerd from, what's that, Twin Peaks? The Twin Peaks nerd is getting grinded?
Kyle MacLachlan.
Kyle gets ground into the pool. He's straight gunite after that.
You should be able to buy the book when you're 17 if you can watch that movie when you're 17.
If you were cool, I feel like you and I with the tattoos, if I was like a little boy and you were working at Books A Million, I'm like, come on, dude, I really want this.
I think if you're old enough to know what it is, you're old enough to read it.
Yeah.
So, but there was also like people's parents would be like, no, it's okay. But then there was times where I'd be like, hey, I'm sorry, I got to deny this to you, and the kid would be mad. It was that.
You denied
popular.
some?
How dirty
It was my
is it?
job.
I mean,
it is your job. You don't want to lose your job either. I don't never fault anybody for doing whatever they got to do to protect their bacon. You know.
Yeah, that was one of my weird jobs. Yeah.
That's a good one.
Yeah.
We've never had a Books a Million person. I've always wondered who would work at one of those.
Right.
I have too thought about like it would be fun to work at one of those, only because I've always wanted to ignore people that are standing at the "Please wait here" sign while I straightened up something behind the counter, and they always do that. And it drives me mad. I'm like, call me over, come on.
We had a great customer once you guys might like. We called him the old pervert.
Okay.
Kenny was there.
He would go to the back of the store where we had all of our huge magazine rack, and all of the Playboys and other magazines of similar content were in that wrapping, you know?
Yeah.
And this guy who dressed like he was in the 1930s, old guy, would go back, collect them all, sit at the little Starbucks we had in there, and unwrap them. And slowly, he'd spend 3 hours in there,
He's
slowly
memorizing them.
flipping through them.
He's downloading them.
And so all the managers were all women, and they would come up to me and go, "Hey, you got to go talk to that guy."
He's
I'm
not
like,
doing
"Me?"
anything. He's just reading.
That's what I said. I was like, he's not bothering anybody, and like it's so inappropriate. I'm
It's
like,
not.
he
It's
bought a
not.
coffee, you know, like he's
It's
a customer.
Fine. It's fine. It's no different than him over there thumbing through Calvin and Hobbes.
Yeah.
No different. It's no different.
And if I was the old pervert, I would make the argument if you did come over and say, "Sir, you can't be thumbing through the Playboys
right.
here," I would be like, "Well, you sell them."
Right.
Yeah.
So what the hell?
Yeah,
exactly.
You're the drug dealer.
Yeah, like you sell these things here. I'm thumbing through them.
Yeah.
Is this legal? To
I
thumb
bought a
through?
coffee. God damn
Right.
Yeah, I bought a
right.
coffee. Like
Yeah.
so, if you don't like this and you can't sell this anymore,
I love this old pervert.
Yeah.
I hope he's still doing it.
which is weird that Books a Million is still selling Playboy.
Do they still sell them?
I don't think they do anymore. No, no.
Yeah.
It's been quite a few years.
It's been a
since I've worked
billion.
there.
Yeah.
Yes. Yeah.
You missed a great chance.
Did he buy them or did he put them back?
No, he didn't buy them. He
Oh,
would
no.
leave them on the
Counter.
table,
Yeah.
and
I'll leave these
with
out
all
for
the
some
trash.
boys. Yeah.
And so that's what we'd really get upset about. But
I'll
we
leave
had
it
a,
here in my sweet and low package.
You just leave it?
What?
Hold on.
But
Hold on.
our magazine rep would come back and go, "No, it's okay. We can always rewrap them."
Well, he's only got 60
so-
seconds of a boater to get to the car.
Yeah.
He's like, I got to run to the car and get this thing going.
Right.
You know,
Oh,
like,
yeah. It'll be gone by the time he gets with the car.
He
I
gets
know.
in the car. He's like, God damn, I can't get the door unlocked.
Yeah.
Oh, I got to go back in and give it the 45 more seconds before I run back to the car.
Also, old man, hold on.
Are you speaking to
Just-
me? You can pretend I'm the old man if you'd like.
Just buy the Playboy and bring it
He
home.
didn't have enough money. They're expensive, dude. There was a time. There was a
Is
time
it
when I
$7,
wanted. No,
right?
there was a time when I wanted a nudie mag, and I like go to buy. I remember I went to buy like a Wii or a Hustler or something. I wanted the good stuff, you know. I didn't want Playboy. I wanted like a Penthouse. And I think that you would go up there like to buy one. They'd scan it. It'd be like $28.50. I'm like $28.
You know what I'm mad about? That I never showed my pop-up. The internet was full
Too
of
much.
porn.
No, it's too much. It'd be too much for him.
He never.
He'd become the
He'd have a
lawnmower
heart
man.
attack.
It'd be it'd be too much
No,
for
I
him.
think he'd like it because
No. I think he'd become obsessed with it. He'd kill him instantly. I don't think they could handle it, man. Like it's too. Like if I showed my dad X
never
videos,
got to see it.
If I showed my dad X videos and I just said, "Now, Dad, type in Asian," it would.
Yeah.
I'm coming.
Too stimulating.
Yeah, Dad.
No. I think
Dad.
it would have made his world. Like he would have been like, "Oh my God, unlimited anything."
Or maybe he'd reject. He'd slowly close the laptop and he'd be
No,
like,
I like
and then
it.
he'd look at me and be like, "How many people know about this?"
Yeah.
So Ryan, back to Full Gut.
Yeah,
Let's talk about the book a little bit.
So when you're writing a horror novel, right? Do you find yourself like, because people like, I guess the tropes, if that's the correct word, that they use in horror movies
Yeah, you're
and
right.
novels.
That's right.
And so,
Yeah, lead me down a path that's familiar,
but
and then mess with me a little bit.
Sure.
But then again, like they tend to criticize people for doing the same thing over and over. Like if the girl's running through the woods,
I like that. And their
then,
top
you know,
falls
you know,
off.
Right.
And then, you know, if the black friend dies first,
Yeah.
all these things that happen, like
Yeah,
people
the
get mad.
cliches.
The
Which,
cliches.
based on athleticism, is not accurate. But
Yeah. Or
That's
you know,
just-
or they're making out at the make-out bluff, and then they hear something rubbing against the top of the car,
Yeah.
and then it turns
Oh,
out
what
it's
is that?
it's his
it's your
girlfriend hanging from the, you know, all the
Yeah,
things.
yeah.
So,
Right.
So do you do you find yourself staying away from those things? Or?
So with this one, a little bit of Yes and no. So it's based off of an actual job we did when I worked for a restoration company. Are you aware of Hontoon Island?
Hontoon Island.
Yeah.
Are you
Yeah.
kidding me?
Yeah.
I fingered more girls there than any place in the world. I have to edit that out.
So there's buildings over there. Like there's like a welcome center and some other structures.
I've been there multiple times on my boat. We camped there one time.
That's where Tom and I may or may not have almost got arrested.
Okay, so after one of the hurricanes, it flooded. And so every structure, including the park ranger's home on the island, got flooded.
Yeah.
And
it's still not open, by the way.
Exactly. So that was one of our full guts. And so I went there. I worked in the marketing department. So I went to go check on it, take photos, and all this kind of stuff, before and after kind of stuff. And
hold on, before you keep going.
Yeah.
Dear Hontoon Island Rangers.
This is how he writes letters. He has to say them out loud, and he thinks that there's a woman in the other room, like taking dictation. It's not true.
Hontoon Island flooded 2.5 years ago.
Well, the senator's still been out of commission for the last 4.
I've been planning to go camping there with my son. I want to go boat camping and to throw a bunch of camping equipment and then take my sons up there and camp on Hontoon Island.
That'll be fun.
And every couple months I check on the website, and I'm like, they've had to rebuild it now.
I've tried to go back to research the book, and I couldn't get on the ferry.
No.
Maybe there's a little bit more there than we all know about. Maybe they're hiding something.
Hey, maybe this book will popularize it again, and they'll get started on it.
We need to hide government laziness because that's the problem.
Yeah,
here.
write a book about that.
Yeah.
And I think no one's in a hurry to start back up the Hontoon Island State Park for whatever reason. I think everybody still gets paid. I think the Rangers figured out, like, hey, we get paid the same salary.
Yeah, whether I give you firewood or not. Like I do.
And now we don't have to deal with
because you're not here.
visitor.
I don't have to sell you DEET. I don't have to bring you wood. It's a lot easier just to drive my golf cart in a circle and be like, all clear.
And I don't blame you, because if I was a ranger and everything got flooded and then I spent 2 years just hanging out on the island doing nothing.
All I do is walk around. It's moist out here and I smoke weed all day.
I mean, it's dry already. Dry as hell. It's been years.
Right.
I think maybe I wouldn't be in a hurry to rebuild it either. But listen, some of us want to use our state parks.
Yeah.
And I want to bring my sons there camping before they get too old and don't want to hang out with their old man.
So there is no word on this? Have you?
I haven't looked into it, no. But I went back in the middle of writing this because, going back to the job we were doing, just walking around it, and it got towards the evening time, so going back to cliches and all that, I just got this creepy island feel, and everything was desolate and abandoned, and we were tearing stuff down all day. I already had the name in mind, and so that's where the idea started, and then that's what kicked it off. So, restoration technicians, they usually have a team that are assigned to a van, and they'll go out to a job. So to me, I already kind of had this cliche of like a Scooby-Doo-esque, Texas Chainsaw Massacre-esque.
Okay, all right.
5 people in a van going out to a secluded area.
Is there a dog?
There's no dog.
Okay. All right.
So,
Just asking. I would be willing to lend my voice to the cartoon Scrappy-Doo version of whatever detective
Is there
you have in
is
place.
there a thick nerd?
Yeah.
That's what I like.
Yeah. A thick nerd that says
No,
she's
the cool
lesbian
part
but
is-
hasn't had me yet.
So
3 C's thick.
the cliche ends,
big.
though, because since they're restoration technicians, they have tools, and they're educated in certain chemicals. And so
This sounds like a video game.
that gave me exactly that gave the characters, because each person a part of these restoration teams is like, there's a chemicals expert, there's someone who does heavy lifting, a shorter person who can crawl into crawl spaces.
That's me.
And then the crew chief who kind of leads the team and talks with the client and all that.
You're the dumb lifter, man.
So
I'm the chief.
I knew you were going
I
to say
talk
that.
to the clients. That's what I do for a living.
I go in small spaces and you lift heavy crap.
No, I
you
talk
are
to-
not the chief.
No, I talk to the clients.
You're not the chief.
All
He
right.
thought he was Native American and wanted me to call him chief for a very long time.
And so all of them use their skills to the problem at hand, which is
Wizard needs food.
So the problem is that it's a mysterious island with a defunct government laboratory on it that hasn't been open for years.
Oh, it's like Lost. There's a
and
smoke
so
monster.
That's what they're going to restore. Little do they know, there's a monster on the island. Little do they also not know is that
and that
the
monster
government,
is Puff Daddy. Oh, buddy.
the government also is planning to gas the entire island. That's their attempt to kill the monster that they know about. Meanwhile, the boss back at HQ of the company, knows this stuff, but thinks they can get them in and out fast enough to get the $1 million job that they think that they're getting. So the crew doesn't know it. So, of course, they have to battle both Monster and then also the government's plans to kill everything on the island.
All right. That sounds fun. I like that a lot, man.
So when you're thinking about the monster, right, where do you go?
Ooh, that's a good question.
Because there's lots of different ways you can go with it. I'm looking here, and there is a alligator look to the monster, and so is that obviously Florida, Hontoon Island, walking alligator monster is the best one.
So the facility they go to clean is a animal disease center that was once a thriving and very productive research facility.
Yeah, this is what this is a scam, right? You put a little research center on everything you do, and then people come and see it. All you got to do is have some dumb animal in a cage or something, and you're like, look, we're doing research.
So there's history in the book. I won't spoil all of it, but the island or the research center is getting shut down to lack of funding because vaccines are expensive to make. And so there's a scientist who comes up with an idea to say, well, what if we combined the DNA of Florida's top most brutal predators, and this is black bears, coyotes, panthers, and alligators. And so that's kind of how that the experiment takes place, and of course it goes wrong and all that, and that is the amalgamation of all of that research.
So what's the hardest? I mean, so you get all this done, you go through, you get your rough draft done, and then you instantly go, okay, I think this is good, and you start sending it out?
Yeah. So A Larger Loss, which was the first book I came on to talk about, that took 2 years to write. And this one, the first draft, took 9 days. Just because I learned what not to do with the last one, because I wrote the first one by hand at first because it was my first book. I didn't really take it seriously. I've tried stuff like that before. And then once I actually got through it all, I had like a stack this thick of legal pads, and I was like, damn, I guess I have to type this up now. And I have such bad handwriting that I couldn't really read what I even wrote.
Gotcha.
And so I had to guess, and it just took way too long. So I'm typing this one right from the beginning. And I had the title, I've been to the location, I had the idea. It was so clear to me right from the get-go that I was able to finish it early, but then editing took like a solid year of getting all that done.
Wow.
So,
that's awesome, man.
And I don't want to give you ideas for Full Gut Part 2,
right.
But there is an Indian shell mound in Hontoon Island, and maybe some Indian shell mound ghosts.
Yeah.
For Part 2. Because this is more like real monster, and maybe Full Gut 2 can go into ghosts.
But I'm not scared of ghosts. I don't believe in any of that, so it's never scared me. Even like ghost movies or paranormal, I was never into that. It was always things that could actually almost plausibly kill me that I'm scared
walking alligator?
Yeah. I said plausibly.
Ryan, you can't.
Alligator monsters are scary.
Plausibly.
You can't say you don't believe in ghosts, and then my idea is stupid.
Well, when
you didn't say that,
they're
you
walking
just felt
alligator.
that. You just felt that.
The hardest part was to make it sound believable. Trust me. That the research they had to do, the stuff that I had to read and look at, it was that's why the book is a lot shorter than A Larger Loss 2, was because I was getting halfway through it, and I'm like, oh my God, how much more can I take of this? Because it's a pretty brutal novel.
Yeah. Well, how do you decide what to, or does your editor really help in that? Are there things, and this is a serious question, are there best practices? Because look, I know that some of my humor and the things that I say, if I went full bore, there'd be some people who'd be like, okay, well, I get what you're doing, but no, man, right? So how do you balance it to be quote brutal enough, because you do want that, right? You want it to be slightly jarring,
right?
But it doesn't stay in that world.
So it's more of the atmosphere too. So there's a handful of really violent scenes and death scenes, of course, and all that. That's what you could expect. But even when things are calm, since it's an island, the cicadas are loud. You hear owls. The moon's out. Mosquitoes are biting them. There's a scene where they also battle nature as well throughout the whole thing. So. Cool. Even in the more tamer parts, they're dealing with the elements. And so I like to look at it as more of an ordeal. Every page has something on it where there's some sort of suffering happening, but it's not so extreme every time.
Right.
Yeah.
He's trying to build the scene up.
Right.
Is there a scene? I'll just go over some of my favorite horror movie scenes that you can sprinkle
the classics. The classics.
Where either the girlfriend is running from the alligator monster, and then she falls in the woods, and then her hand lands on what she thinks is her boyfriend's hand. It actually is her boyfriend's hand, and then for a split second she feels comforted. And she's like, "Oh, thank God you're here." And then she picks up the hand is severed off. There's all these. I love that one.
Right.
And then she's like,
There's a scene in it where they find a character finds a bear trap, and he sets up this plan to capture the monster. And the monster is more intelligent than that, and dodges it. And then later in a later scene, another character accidentally steps on it. And so there's things that they do that they think they're plotting right that go wrong eventually.
Oh, so they're
not,
Tom Van.
It's,
You're gonna like this book.
Step in his own trap.
See my bear trap.
I love stepping in my own trap. I do it all the time.
He got killed in Tom's bear trap.
So it's not only the aggressor that is causing the violence. It's also accidents in nature, and it just nothing goes kind of as it should.
Now, is there anything that you put in there that your editor's like, nah, dog, we can't roll?
Yes, the first draft is gnarly, I will say, because that was one where I was like, that's what I like to do with first drafts is just don't stop to get it done.
Yeah.
So I won't say it here, but there was a sex scene originally that got taken out, and it was on this massive putrid pile of flesh, and they looked at it, and two people looked at it, and they were just, that was the one thing they both said, like, hey, like, there's really no reason for this.
The whole scene where the gator monster is banging everybody on the pile of, like, that's weird.
There's no reason for
but
this.
he loved it, dude.
Yeah.
He's a sex sex addict.
A bunch of corpses. They were like, Ryan.
Right. Yeah. Pull that back. Well, that's how he expresses his dominance to his other victims is by, performing sex on a pile of flesh.
So now, let's go to the business side of things.
Yeah, sure. This is the truly scary part.
So when you, how many books do you get printed to start with?
Mm-hmm.
Is there a lot of print on demand, order on demand?
Right.
How does the distribution work nowadays?
Right. It's print on demand mostly.
Yeah.
But I get a certain couple hundred books delivered to me to kind of do whatever I want with, and so like that's where that book came out of that pile.
Nice.
And so I can go around here to different bookstores and try to get them in there and all that kind of stuff. My first book was distributed in California in some Barnes and Nobles.
Nice.
The publisher had a certain deal over there, and I was like, hey, I'm on the complete opposite side of the country, can we get some over here? But I got kind of grandfathered into this whole thing. But anyway,
that's awesome.
Mostly on demand, and kind of just four-walling it myself and going around and doing what I can.
And besides from like this, how do you go about marketing? Like, I know the publisher, they probably have some marketing deal where like, hey, we get you out on these websites, but is it up to the
we put you as the headline on our Facebook page,
right?
Because I know sometimes with bands, it's this way too, where like the record label, like, hey, we'll do a little bit, but it's up to you. You got to grind out your own marketing.
Yeah.
And then if you reach a certain plateau, maybe then we'll kick in a certain amount of money. Like, is there something like that?
Yeah. So with a larger loss, it was harder because since it was kind of a general thriller, you couldn't tack it down to like what kind of was it, and nobody really knew what restoration was, or so it was kind of hard by the cover to tell what kind of book it was. So that cover is hand painted by an artist here in town.
Oh, whoa.
And I said, hey, I want it to look this certain scary way so anybody can look at it and immediately go, oh, it's a horror or suspense novel.
Yeah.
So the publisher and I work in marketing too, so we kind of collaborated on this deal where, hey, since it's so clearly identified as a horror book, we took to social media and search marketing this time because the horror audience is so defined, and this has such a face to it with the cover that it'll be instantly recognizable as a scary horror book, even with the title. And so we did a hardcore social media campaign promoting my website.
Nice.
And then press releases, the usual kind of crap. But with social media, I'm sure you guys, you can dial it down to certain age ranges.
Oh, yeah.
And
you can go right to your guys. Yeah.
This and that. And so we went hard with that, and that's been super successful, actually.
Okay.
That's great.
Mm-hmm.
I would imagine that if you're reading, like my wife is, she reads like, I don't know, 200 books a year or something like that. I mean, she's an avid reader.
200.
Yeah, it's crazy. And my daughter's not that far behind her. They like to read.
That's great.
Daddy, more of a video game fatso. But anyway, so like she'll read a lot of them, but like she'll get in groups that'll be like, it'll be like women that like books that are based in Maine, that are love stories that are not sexual but are romantic, that involve doctors and young professional women. Boom.
Right.
And then there'll be 1 billion books on that, and they all...
Yes.
Because, like, so for you, like, books on horror that are locally sourced or written out of Florida, I'm sure there's a group on Reddit where...
Well, you'd be surprised, because I've embarrassed myself already quite a few times. Because, like, you guys are familiar with Sanford. There's a bookstore in Sanford that is very... pink, shall I say.
Okay.
And white and bright and mostly romance focused. And I went in there with that, and I'm like, hi. It just stood out like a sore thumb. You know? And I'm like, I'm 6'5" too. So like, even just me with my tattoos and this book, like they looked at me like I was crazy.
Did you tell them about the alligator sex?
I'll put the putrid flesh back.
Right, exactly. Yeah. So it's hard for me. I feel like there's a lot of writers groups. Like I've even looked at now I released it purposely in October because I felt like it'd be more. That was part of the marketing strategy.
Nice.
Yeah.
People would be more in tune to read something like that, and I thought I'd find more reader, writer, horror novel book events. And the ones that I have gone to are still these like more frilly kind of like, oh, the witch's lover and stuff like that.
Yeah.
I'm like, okay, this is like really kind of like down to earth, brutal, and so it's kind of hard. It's been hard to find an audience locally.
Ryan, are authors, or is this totally against the author's code, using AI at all to like write the base of their story and then they just go back in
or
and
even
change
edit
it?
I could see an idea where you would like write it by hand and then throw it in AI and just like, hey, glaring mistakes, help me out here, maybe.
Yeah, there's a lot of big like legal cases that they're trying to because like, people are like finishing George R.R. Martin's Game of Thrones series because he takes them a while to finish his books, so they'll use like ChatGPT to like guess
like hurry up,
what
you
it's gonna
dumb
be.
old man.
And so, but I mean, I'm sure other people do, but like I like writing. That's the thing. Like I don't want something else to do it for me.
Yeah.
I actually like sitting down and doing it and screwing it up and then fixing it. And writing really takes place in the editing process too. So I enjoy that process. But I mean, I don't. What's the point though if you're just gonna let a chatbot write it?
I think I'm pretty good at figuring out chatbot they're writing. Like I can see the like when people give it to me, like I can look at it. Even emails, I can look at it and be like, I don't know about that.
Even if I wanted to, I couldn't because a chatbot needs to have like the learning system of what you're talking about. Write me a restoration thriller novel about a gator monster on Hontoon Island, and it would have no idea what I was talking about and wouldn't be able to generate anything anyway.
See, that's where me and you differ, Ryan, because if someone told me, like, you could do this yourself or have someone else do it for you, I will always I mean, if someone called me this morning and were like, hey, someone else will do the show, all you just,
well, here's the address. I'll text in.
I'm joking. Well, Ryan, where can people find the book? How did they order it?
Yeah, right now it's only on Amazon,
nice.
Or you can go to my website, which is ryan-reese.com. And
is there a name for the alligator monster?
There is.
Okay, all right. Don't give it up.
Okay,
don't give it up.
Yeah,
I just wanted to know if there was one.
Yeah.
Okay.
Real quick, can I tell you about some hate mail that I've
Yeah.
gotten?
Yes, and I'll tell you something. I got some right now.
So already, somebody already. So we were talking about like before. Like, how do people like reach out with critiques to you?
Yeah.
And I'm always waiting for like a DM on Instagram or a Facebook message or something like that. But it's been email through the website. And this one person with full gut just, I guess it's funny, but the subject line just read trash.
Aww.
And then, which I thought was hilarious.
That's harsh, though.
Yeah.
Like when you say something, like I do that for effect. When you're like, it's trash.
But I laughed when she's like, the first line of the body was, I don't even know where to begin.
Oh, really? Oh, that's like when you get a review of like a restaurant and they're like, I don't even know where to start on.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. And she just pointed out like, this made me laugh. She was like, you use too many 4-letter words.
No, they were like, it was some like
some old granny.
Some religious
You blew her
granny.
slippers off. Mad at you.
Which is interesting to me because if you like, obviously you are a fan of books, right?
Yeah.
If you came across your book, like you probably read a lot of books.
You have to be an avid reader, I would imagine.
And if you're reading a fictional book, right? Then you may not like the story or whatever. It may not be for you, but to say it's generally trash is ridiculous because you don't understand the concept of that fiction is subjective, which it has to be, right? So it's like looking at a painting and be like, it's horrible.
Yeah.
Well,
I'm like, did you see the cover?
Like, so it's ridiculous to even like definitively say something's horrible if it's fiction. Because it can't be. It's horrible to you, so you have to say like I
didn't like that.
Don't like it.
Yeah, you can just say that's not for me.
You have to say I with every critique of fiction.
Also, like we've gotten to it used to be that like critiques didn't carry as much weight if you didn't do anything. You know, like there used to be a value, and before social media. Like, you would look at the person, and they'd see how they're dressed, and you have, like, a firefighter telling you that, and you'd be like, well, you don't write, so what do you know? You know what I mean? Like, now, it's like people just launch off their opinions of everything, and then you just sit there and suffer with it.
Or, like, negative press was, like, used as the positive press, which would make people interested. You know, like, I think of, like, people like John Waters.
I think this would work for you, though. I really do. Like, taking her review and just saying trash.
Yeah.
You use too many four-letter words. You had the entire chat room was like, we're listening.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, so what else have you got? Any
other
feedback?
With the first book, For a Larger Loss, somebody reached out thinking that you know, I was going to expose the restoration industry and like insurance adjusters, and it was some sort of like expose when it's a fictional thriller novel where there's villains and heroes and suspenseful scenes and it's fun.
Yeah.
And so her email was very long. She like wrote a whole essay, but basically it said, you know, I thought you were going to like expose this industry for the frauds that they are. I personally suffered a damage, and the fact that you made heroes out of these characters, there's no such thing. It can't be done. Everybody in this business is scoundrels.
That's a great underused word too. Scoundrels is great.
And
well, that is true.
My next book's going to be called Solar.
Well, it's funny you say that. She called it propaganda. And so I was like, you got to be kidding me. You know, I kind of wrote it as my own critique. I joked on the industry that I worked in.
Because you're in it.
And so like it was just supposed to be fun. And again, it's not an OSHA manual. You know, it's a fun story, just like how Full Gut is too. So that's all they're supposed to be, are fun stories. I don't, you know, last time I was here, it's like I told you guys, like I got off my high horse, took off the beret, trying to be too literary. Where these are just fun stories that I like to write.
I like that, man. That's awesome. Well, congrats
thank you very much.
everything, man. I'm glad it's going so well.
Is there like a number goal for like the amount of books sold? I'm just curious, like how, like
there are. So since I'm still relatively unknown, it's really capped at 1,000 right now.
Okay.
So even A Larger Loss, almost being a year old now, still hasn't met that number. I'll admit it. You know, I'm not a bestseller.
Yeah, no, that's
dude. I'm impressed that hundreds is to me is
it's like 761.
That's a lot.
Or 2, 3, something like that. So
you sold more books than there are listeners to some podcasts.
Yeah,
and you should feel really good about that.
The thing is, though, it's like that's also ebooks. That's also actual physical copies. The one thing I haven't gotten to, because it's so expensive, is audio. And a lot of people say, I would, but like I'm busy, man. I would listen to it in my commute. I would listen to it while I run. You guys probably know, like audio is one of those media formats where it can be kind of done anywhere. You put in your AirPods and you're good to go. You can also do dishes while you do it. You can't do dishes and read a physical copy of a novel at the same time.
Jackal's saying to call him. He said he can, cut you a break on that. He could.
On audio.
Yeah,
I'm all for that.
Hold on, you got a good voice. Not to cut Jackal out of it.
I tried. It's harder than it looks. It's harder than it looks.
But it's probably easier to read your own words that you wrote, and then.
You know how the story's supposed to go.
Yeah. And now the recording equipment is so cheap.
It is.
Now it takes a long time.
I think we can help you with that.
It's enunciating and like getting it right. And
but we know people. I could do it. Jackal could do it. Like we know people that do. We have listeners that are professionals. Our buddy Sylvia that we just interviewed last week for Weird Job. She's a vocal
Right.
like we can connect you with the right people.
Okay.
You just put a blanket over your head and get a Zoom recorder.
He's not. I would love to make fun
flashlight.
of what he's saying, but
Yeah.
he's not wrong.
Right.
And just read it.
The equipment that they have now, it gets better every single day. Like this computer is only 5 years old. This is a hunk of
It's
crap.
not the equipment. It's being able to read the story in a like. I hate my voice. I feel like I'm too nasally, but I need somebody for this like that who can really sell the story. You know, if you ever listen to a great audiobook.
like Tracy Morgan. Oh man.
Yeah, like I felt like my
I
first book
want
should
to
have been
make
read by a
love
woman.
to you on this pile of putrid flesh. I want to make you pregnant on this flesh, girl.
Yeah, but you're right. And then, and then it's a gamble, too, because you have to pay a bunch of money to record it. And
Right.
then,
Yeah, and then the guy that voiced it for you is a pedophile. And then you're like, oh my God, what do you do? Just speed it up 5%. They'll never know it's him.
Yeah.
and then you're yelling at everybody who told you that they'd buy an audiobook. And you're like, where are the sales?
Yeah, you lied.
Right.
You
Right.
lied to me.
Right.
Because
It
people
costs
will
money
do that.
to write a book.
People will suggest a piece of merchandise, and then we'll put it out,
Yeah,
and then the sales will be barely
I don't
anything.
suggest nothing anymore. Like they tell me, oh Dan, you should really do tank tops. I go, shut your filthy mouth. I'm not doing anything you say. You're just trying to waste our money.
Well, Ryan, thanks so much for coming in again.
Good
Yeah.
luck with it, man. And again, where can people find it?
Amazon
Ryan-Reese.com?
and Ryan-Reese.com. Yeah.
There you go. All right, guys.
You should get it on Temu.
Right.
But a very cheap, smaller, crappier version.
Yeah,
Right,
and then a man in a diaper with no other clothes on will have to pull it through a tiny hole and then load it on a truck. Have you seen the naked Temu workers?
I have, yeah.
Yeah, it's sad.
It
It's
is,
sad.
yeah.
It looks like the old New Jack City drug scenes where it was the big black mamas.
They're
with
probably
their-
the ones printing my book.
Do you know what I'm talking? In New Jack City, they'd be packaging the drugs, and it's all black women with their boobies out. That scene, I'd always freeze frame it. I'd be like, yeah, baby.
All right. We will see you tomorrow.
Awesome. Great job.